Welcome to 30 years ago. The year is 1984. Popped-in collars are back in fashion. Izods are back in fashion. Sunglasses on the sleeve here back in fashion. And Dylan Lang's big hair is also back in fashion.
That's big hair.
Welcome to Dylan Knows Lists, my weekly YouTube show, the best show on YouTube ever. Is weekly, 12:30, different genre every week. This week happens to be my list with my co-host Gigi Fletcher. Hello, Gigi.
Hello.
Good to have you back after a 1-month hiatus.
Yeah.
It's all big and fun games. So we got a good one to come back to, though. Our list show is we take a top 10, top 5, pick a subject, and we dissect our lists. This one is right down a lot of people's aisles, the top 10 films of 1984. Those of us who probably are watching this show have grown up in the 80s or know a lot of the 80s films, and you may be surprised by which films are 30 years old. I know I was a little bit surprised, like, really? It seemed like it just came out yesterday. And I guess it's a testament to the films that they keep that, timeless quality to them, which is, something they just think, really, that was 30 years ago that they came out. But so, we'll do our list. We might do some little walks down a memory, geez, I can't talk today.
Memory lane.
Memory lane, yes. It's all the cocaine I've been doing from the 80s. So, no, what it actually is that I got paid for my YouTube my show $1 million. Yay! I'm a millionaire. I can quit my job and do this full time. Oh wait, there's writing on the back. Never mind. It's not real. So much for the prop. Oh well. So because this is we talk about this and we go into a lot of detail, and we tend to go a little longer because I can't shut up. Gigi's pretty good. Gigi's good at the point. She gets the point. She says, "This is what's going on." And I'm sitting there going, "Well, we got this, blah 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 blah," and then before we know it, the show is 2.5 hours long. So we're going to try not to do that today. But so what we're going to do is we're going to start up right away. So for our one viewer who's watching, thank you for watching. I'm sure it's going to pick up eventually. We've got the top 10 films of 1984. So we've got the Q&A up on Google if you're watching on Google. So if you have a question or comment about 1984 films, or you want to give us your favorite films of 1984. If you don't know what films came out in 1984, the best place to go, believe it or not, is Wikipedia. You type in 1984 and film, and it'll give you a list of the top box office, and it'll also give you everyone that came out through the year when they came out. So you've got, January 5th is when this one came out, or June 6th is when this came out, so on and so forth. So you get to see all the films that came out. That's how I gathered my list. But before we do our top 10, because 1984 was such an amazing year for film, both Jerry and I have some, honorable mentions, I guess, as it were, for films that came out that didn't quite make our list, but are good enough for you guys to check out, because that's another reason why we do the list show, is because you might find a movie that you've never heard of before, or one you haven't seen in ages, and you might say, you know what, maybe I should go revisit it. So hopefully that's what we'll go ahead and do. So Jerry, I'll let you go ahead and you can do your honorable mentions first.
Okay, so my honorable mentions are, well, the first one is, and I love this one because it was a very old actor was in this one, and it was the sequel to the first one, and it was Oh God, You Devil, with George Burns. And I mean, just 11-year-old me thought it was so cool and clever how he played both God and the devil. And it's funny because I went back and read the summary of it, and I thought, wow, it was kind of hokey, but like I said, because we were just kids back then, I thought it was really cool. But should I just keep reading my...
Yeah, just go ahead. Okay. Just keep doing yours, and then I'll do mine real quick.
The one I remember, I saw this in the theater with my uncle and my brother, because my uncle's a big sports guy, and it was The Natural. And when I went back and read about that, it's funny, I didn't realize that it had been a book first, and then they turned it into a movie about the older baseball player who then, does really well. Yeah. And then my next one, I think everybody loved the soundtrack and the music, and I was probably too young to see it, but I saw it because my mom loved it, and that was Purple Rain by Prince. I felt prepared.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then, of course, I had to throw in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because that was, the one indie that came out in '84. And then my honorable mention is one that, to this day, I still have not seen, and that is Footloose. I've never seen Footloose. So I have to mention the fact that maybe someday I'll see it. It's been 30 years. It's still on my to-do list. And those are my honorable mentions. I don't know if it's up on your list, but we'll find out
Actually,
later.
yeah, you know what? I have a feeling that this episode we're going to have a lot of overlap because there are. I think we have the same general likes and dislikes, so I think our lists are going to be maybe not identical, but they're going to be very close to, and it might be just because different locations for different ones. But you mentioned Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. That one didn't make my top 10 only because it wasn't my favorite, but I've been reading some of the history of it. There have been on Ain't It Cool News especially, they've been doing a history of Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, and they love it, and they looked at it from a completely different perspective. It made me think maybe I should go back and watch it again. It was a prequel, basically. For those who didn't know, Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom takes place before Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Spielberg made the point to make sure you knew that, because when the movie starts, he gives the date, and it's a year before Raiders of the Lost Ark, because Raiders had their date like 30, I guess, like say 38 or 39 or something like that. This one's 38, so it is a prequel. And then when these people on Ain't It Cool News started dissecting a bit more, it's like, if you look at it, Indiana Jones starts off as a dick. He's basically Belloc. At the beginning of Temple of Doom, he's got in it just for the fame and glory and the money, and then he runs into this scenario where he has to free a bunch of kids from a cult master, and that's when he starts changing his mind and turning into the noble Indiana Jones that we know. So that's where a lot of people take a look at it, and yes, it was a lot darker than Raiders, because Raiders is just a good old-fashioned fun film. And I've said it before, and I said it again, if you take Indiana Jones out of that story, the same result still happens. The Nazis are still going to get themselves killed by the Ark. Just it might be a lot sooner, and it might have taken out all of Nazi Germany as well. But that's a different story, for a different time. But regardless, Raiders was still a whole lot of fun. And then Last Crusade, I like that a lot due to the fact that his interplay with Sean Connery as his dad was amazing. So that's the reason why Temple didn't make it to my top 10. But maybe because of this new thinking about it, maybe I should go back and revisit it sometime, take a look at it. Footloose was on my list also. It's just a fun little dance film. The soundtrack is amazing. You also said The Natural. Natural's on mine as well. I'm just going to run through a bunch of other ones. These are other movies that came out in '84 that deserve a mention, but not in my top 10. Romancing the Stone, Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner, another really good romantic comedy adventure film directed by Robert Zemeckis, and they had great chemistry. Danny DeVito's in there as well. I'm probably going to get yelled at by a bunch of people, but this is Spinal Tap isn't in my top 10, one of the greatest rockumentaries of all time. It didn't quite make my list. The Muppets Take Manhattan, which was actually one I did see in the film, because in '84 I was 11 years old, so the films that are on my list I might not necessarily have seen in '84, but I have seen them eventually. But Muppets Take Manhattan, I know I saw that in '84 because it was, I was 11 and it was the Muppets, so and I love that. Repo Man, which is a great dark cult classic film with Emilio Estevez and Harry Dean Stanton, is fantastic. I highly recommend everybody go check out Repo Man. Fantastic. And then a lot of people hate this, but Star Trek III: Search for Spock actually isn't that bad of a film. It's not as bad as, say, Star Trek: The Motion Picture or Undiscovered Country, but it has its moments, but it's actually not that bad. '84 also introduced the Coen brothers to the film world with Blood Simple, which was it's a great film, which didn't quite make my top 10 just because. Steve Martin started his path down his physical comedy All of Me with Lily Tomlin, where Lily Tomlin plays his boss who dies and her spirit inhabits his body, and just the physical comedy of Steve Martin and the chemistry between him and Lily Tomlin was fantastic. Cloak and Dagger, which is a film a lot of people might not know about, with Dabney Coleman playing it's about a boy who reads stories about an imaginary spy, cat burglar, who's played by Dabney Coleman, but the kid's dad is also played by Dabney Coleman, and it's like it's a child dream type of film. It's actually highly recommended you check it out, and it's the one time where Dabney Coleman actually really doesn't play a dick, because he usually plays in the 80s. He played the biggest bastards, from 9 to 5 and stuff like that. This was one where he actually was a little bit more level-headed and sort of similar to his role in War Games, where he was kind of a dick in War Games, but he had a reason for it, and actually in the end he turns out to be not a bad guy. The Last Starfighter, which is just an amazing sci-fi film about a video game, which hasn't aged really well because it is a video game, and arcade games were huge in '84. Good story, though. Tom Hanks started out his career with Bachelor Party, another childish sex romp comedy, which is hilarious.
Did you see that when you were 11?
No, no, I didn't actually. That would have been amazing if I would have. And I got two more. Dune by David Lynch. Though a lot of people don't like the adaptation that David Lynch did, it's actually not bad, and I have good feelings for it for another reason. College, ex-girlfriend. We're not even going that further. And then the last one is a nice romantic sci-fi film in Starman by Jeff Bridges, with Jeff Bridges about an alien who inhabits the body of a dead guy and learns to love. So those are my honorable mention, and we talked long enough about honorable mentions. Let's get into our top 10. But real quick, though, Janica asked you, Jerry, what is the biggest your hair has ever been?
My hair used to be in the 80s. I should have brought a picture and showed you. Like down past, almost to my waist, and it was spiral permed, and my bangs I used to have probably about 3-4 inches up. So yeah, big Jersey hair. I look like picture like John Bon Jovi's hair, and then stick my face in there, and that was me in the 80s. And it took a long time to do. Now I'm just like, dude, ponytail and let's go, But back then you got up early, you took your shower, you got all done up every day just to go to school. So funny.
Oh, the good old days, right?
Yes, the good old days.
So, number 10 of your 1984 films.
Okay, so in '84, I was 11 years old. I'm not one of those chicks that's like, ooh, nobody can know my age. So, yeah, I was 11. And when I was telling Dylan, when I first came up with my list, I came up with it thinking, like, me as the adult, what would be my top 10? Then I thought, well, wait a second. Let me go back and try to remember when I was 11 and make the list based on, 11-year-old me. So I tried to, make my top 10 based on that. So my number 10 is about a mermaid, but it isn't Disney and it isn't Ariel. This mermaid's name is Madison, and it starred Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah, and it was Splash.
Yes.
And yes. So quickly, the story about Splash. Tom Hanks plays Alan Bauer, and as a kid, they're going on this trip. He somehow falls off the boat because he thinks he sees something, and then he gets rescued, and it turns out it's a mermaid, but he doesn't know that yet. Then cut to years later, it's 20 years later, so 1984, and he goes to a friend's wedding, and he's sort of like down in the dumps, he's looking for love and can't find true love, and he gets really drunk at this wedding, and, works his way over, finds the same spot, ends up overboard, and when he wakes up, this beautiful blonde woman is there, and it turns out it's Daryl Hannah, it's the mermaid, and she jumps in the water and goes away. But his wallet ends up in the water. So she grabs the wallet, she finds maps in the sunken ship, and she reads his address. It's New York City. She ends up in New York City, and she's naked by the Statue of Liberty. The cops arrest her, but when they see the wallet, they call him. So he comes and he takes her. Stop that. And, he takes custody of her, whatever, they fall in love. But, while all this is happening, then he meets, played by Eugene Levy, the scientist named Corin Bluth, who is on the search to find mermaids. He's hell-bent. He thinks that mermaids exist. He wants to find them. So, I'm not going to go on and on about the story, but, he goes, he finds the mermaid. They both get arrested. They end up in tanks. Then at the end, he feels bad about it. So then Tom Hanks' character, John Candy, who plays his brother, and Eugene Levy have to try to save her. And, big question mark about what happens at the end, because I don't know if everybody's seen it, but I'm pretty sure they probably have.
I know I have. It's number 8 on my list, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. So that's number 8 on my list. It was Ron Howard's second film after Night Shift, and it was the one that set him on his path to Ron Howard now, who's won Oscars and stuff like that. It is a fantastic romantic comedy. It makes me miss John Candy even more, because John Candy, before this movie, has always been kind of considered as the goofy, fat, slobbery type of guy. In this, he's given an actual interesting character role, playing the brother of Tom Hanks, who him and Tom Hanks, they are running their father's fruit stand in New York City down near the docks, and they have to deal with all this stuff there. And then when Tom Hanks starts falling in love with Daryl Hannah's character, he starts ignoring the fruit stand, and so John Candy, who's never had a time to be the boss or to run stuff on his own, has to become the boss now, and it's rough for him, but eventually he does a really good job of doing that. And then just his character is just, he loves his brother. He's and he'll do anything for him, and in fact gets himself pretty much arrested helping Tom Hanks save the mermaid. And then Eugene Levy's character starts off as this annoying prick of a guy who sees the light when he sees how Madison is being treated, and turns into a good guy again, which is great. And I feel so bad for him because he gets the crap beat out of him in this movie so badly. But it works at the time because he's such a jerk to begin with. You don't feel so bad for him, but then, he just keeps happening to him the whole movie, so it's kind of funny.
Doesn't he almost get run over during the chase scene? Yeah,
he does, yeah. And then his very last scene, after the ending happens, something else happens to him. He's like, on a day I'm having. So that's a good one. And then Tom Hanks, Tom Hanks wasn't really Tom Hanks at that time. He was a stand-up comedian just trying to get his thing started, his career started. So he was just doing his comedy shtick. He showed a little bit of a flair of character, but nothing major. It's a pretty pedantic character. You fall in love with a mermaid, so that's don't go this way, buddy. I'm sorry, my son is grabbing some crayon stuff. I didn't want him to trip on the wires.
Now, had he already been in Bosom Buddies at that point?
Yes, that's where that's what got him his foot in the door with that as well. And then of course Daryl Hannah was absolutely gorgeous as Madison, and actually has some pretty funny scenes. One of my favorite is when Tom Hanks finds her again in the mall or the hut or the Sears or something like that. She's by all the TVs where she's been watching TV for 24 hours or whatever, and then she has to tell her what her name is, and she talks in her dolphin voice, and it shatters all the TVs in this place. It's really funny. So it's a fun film. So it's my number 8 because I love that film, and I really want to show my daughter that film because she likes mermaids and stuff like that. So
there you go.
It might be a good one to show her down the line. My number 10 is I wouldn't have been allowed to watch it in '84 because, like you, I was 11 years old. It's a rated R comedy. And in honesty, it's probably the best of the series. It's Police Academy. The Police Academy movies, there's been 6 or 7 of them, and they sort of became a joke of themselves and became more of a all ages type of movie. But this first one was a satire on the world of schools and police work and stuff like that, and also was a way to bring the Animal House, us against the man, the students against the teachers, try to bring that out. So the premise is that the mayor of New York or the governor of New York or whatever says that anybody can now become a police officer. It doesn't have to be specific people. They're opening it up because of the amount of crime and stuff like that. So women and foreigners and losers, stuff like that, they can all come in, and aimless drifters, stuff like that, they can all come into the police academy, learn to become police officers, and go out. So you follow a group of them. Main characters played by Steve Guttenberg, and you have such a group of outrageous characters. You got Michael Winslow's character who makes the sound effects. He can make sound effects like, and that's one of the jokes is that he gets out of the tight problems with using his special effects. You've got Tackleberry, played by David Wohl, I think, who was the gung-ho Rambo type who loves guns and shooting stuff up and the tough guy and stuff like that. You've got the very low-talking female, I forget what her name is, who she's talks like a little baby, and you can't take her seriously. Calm down, everybody, with the police. You can't take her seriously, but then when you need her the most, she gets that, don't move, dirtbag, You got the football player,
Bubba Smith.
Bubba Smith playing Hightower, which is great. He's just doesn't talk much, and he's a force of nature like that. And then Steve Guttenberg is the consummate joker, con artist, always trying to get into women's pants. And then you've got Kim Cattrall as the woman that he lusts after. And then, of course, you've got the teachers who are jerks to them, and just you follow the comedy. There's a a guy who dresses as a woman so he can go into the women's dormitories and have sex with the women. So you've got the big bosom teacher, big bosom woman teacher who is a badass as well. You've got the slimy guy who is a tattletale, and you've got the dim-witted commissioner of the school. The guy the commandant. And it's adult comedy because there's nudity, there's sex jokes, there's the gay bar, the Blue Oyster or something like that, which always they play into the fact, and wrapped around a action film. It's a comedy, so the first one is a fun one, and the second one's not so bad, and the third one isn't so bad, but after the third one it's sort of drifting off into aimlessness. But the first one still is the best. And if you hear Police Academy, like, oh, I know those movies, check out the first one. Trust me, the first one is the best of them. And if you would have made a series focused more on the R-rated type of styling like that, it could have been a pretty good series. But in the end, they wanted to go towards the kids. So that's my number 10.
Police Academy was my number 2.
Okay.
Yeah, because I love that movie. Okay, so my number 9 is it's a fantasy, and it's something that I know I had never seen anything like it before this came out, and that was The Never-Ending Story. And it's a boy named Bastian, and he gets bullied at school, so what he likes to do is run to the bookkeeper's shop and just sort of hide away in some books. So one day he goes in after being chased, and the bookkeeper tells him, all right, so see that book over there? It's forbidden. If you open it, it could be quite dangerous. Don't go near the book. So he, of course, steals the book because he's a kid and he's just been tempted by the bookkeeper. And then I think it's like the next day or whatever, the bullies are after him again, so he runs into the school attic, sort of hunkers down with this book and starts reading the story. And I thought it was so creative and so amazing. There's a Truo, how do you say his name? Atruyo?
Yeah, Atruyo, yeah, that's how I always pronounced it.
And just very creative characters for the time. There was the Empress, the gnome couple, of course, Falkor, the luck dragon, who they all get to ride and fly around on, and then the evil Smork, who had I remember he had those shiny, scary eyes, and I remember as an 11-year-old that terrified me. I thought he was very scary. But it was cool because as he's reading the book, he begins to realize he's embedded into the story, and then toward the end he has to help them, and just really cool fantasy. And of course that song, total earworm. Everybody gets Never-Ending Story, la 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 la, stuck in their head. But just loved it. Thought it was just so uber creative for its time, and the effects, they weren't so horrific either. They were pretty good for then. So Never-Ending Story is my number 9.
84 was a good year for effects. They started really getting into their groove, and there are a lot of really high effects films that come out in 84. And yeah, Never-Ending Story is a great one. It's not on my list because I came into it a little bit later in life. When I was in high school, I was hanging out with a group of friends, and we decided one day, let's go see Never-Ending Story Part 2. So we went to the movie theater, we saw that, and then at that point, I don't think I'd seen the first one yet, so I went back and I watched the first one. And it's a really good fantasy series, and it is a good one for the kids. There might be some scary moments in it, but it's still it's a good story, and it has good messages, and it's just visually stunning, and it is an amazing film, and it's another good one. More proof that 84, the 80s were a pretty good year for filmmaking. I'm almost 100% sure this is on your list too, Jerry. My number 9 is The Karate Kid, with Ralph Macchio and Pat Morita. And that
and Elizabeth Shue.
And Elizabeth Shue, yes, she is. That's right, she is in that as well.
Jersey girl.
And the premise behind that is, who doesn't know the premise, but just in case you don't, Karate Kid is a boy named Daniel. moves from, I guess, from New York to California. I guess
Jersey.
All right, I'm sorry.
He's an Italian from Jersey.
Jersey, California, because his mom's a single mom and she's going for work, I think, and he gets bullied by the local bullies all the time, who happen to be in a highly coveted karate class. So they bully him and they beat the crap out of him and all this stuff. And so in order to defend himself, he wants to learn how to do karate, but the school is not. He doesn't want to go to the school where the bullies are, because the guy who runs, the headmaster of that, he's a dick as well. He's the one who's telling them, you got to bully the younger kids and show them who's the boss, which is the exact opposite of what karate actually is. But that's what karate is. First and foremost, it's self-defense. It's not, let's attack somebody who's weaker than us and beat the crap out of them. But that's what the headmaster's mindset is. So luckily, the apartment complex that Daniel lives in with his mom is run by a Asian guy by the name of, I forget what his
Mr. Miyagi.
Mr. Miyagi, yes, I keep forgetting. Yeah. Played by Pat Morita, who eventually saves Daniel's life after almost getting the crap beaten out of him, or he did get the crap beaten out of him, but almost beaten to death or whatever. Pat Morita comes and kicks the bullies' asses, and Daniel sees this, and he asks Mr. Miyagi to train him to fight back and stuff like that. And so Mr. Miyagi, unwillingly, but decides in the end, I'm going to do it to help him out, and ends up doing it the long way around, but doing it the proper way. He starts off by teaching him, making Daniel, instead of learning how to fight, he has him paint the fence or wax the floor, wax on, wax off, or clean. And basically, Daniel feels like he's being cheap labor for Mr. Miyagi, doing stuff that he doesn't like to do. And then when he gets to the point where, you're not teaching me how to fight back, Mr. Miyagi says, all right, comes after him and says, wax on, wax off. So when Mr. Miyagi attacks him, he does the wax on, wax off, and he learns that the whole time Mr. Miyagi was teaching him how to use defense by the wax on, wax off, and paint the fence. And so I'm going to be done my show in a little bit, buddy. Why? Do you need something to drink? I'm sorry, hold on.
It's okay.
You hurt yourself? Here, let me. I know it hurts. All right. Yeah, you'll be okay.
Oh, I need a Band-Aid. It sounds like Lucas.
Can you Mommy's not here. Noelle, can you get a bandage for Noah?
I already did.
All right, can you bring it down here then? I'm sorry, but so he learns how to defend himself, and then Mr. Miyagi takes him to the next level and teaches him how to defend himself, and then the climax has them going to the karate championship and taking on the bullies in a competition. So that's my Karate Kid. I'm gonna let you talk about Karate Kid now, Jerry, because I can't deal with this. So give us your take.
Kid, yeah, that was my number 3. I really liked it, and I just love the fact that Daniel's this underdog, and he has a lot of heart, and he's just this really good, innocent kid who's put in this situation, and the whole time he's just baffled by it. Hi. And he's upset. I don't know why the mom was a single parent. I don't remember if they say if the dad died or they were just left by him or whatever the story was. But the fact that the bond he then creates with Mr. Miyagi, sort of becomes like the father figure that he just really needed in his life. And it's a really good story. It's a great coming of age story, and he gets to fall in love with this girl, and she likes him back, and it's cool.
And believe it or not, the sequel is actually one of the better sequels out there, Karate Kid Part 2. I actually, to be honest, and I'm going to be honest right now, I like Karate Kid Part 2 better than the original one. I think basically what made Karate Kid 2 for me was more along the lines of that they changed the venue to Japan, which is just in itself is an amazing place, and where karate is used, and the storyline, you get to focus a little bit more on Mr. Miyagi, because Pat Morita does a wonderful job as Mr. Miyagi, and Ralph Macchio is not too bad himself as Daniel. And I just like the fact, I just like the story. You get a little bit more about Mr. Miyagi, about his life and where he comes from, and I like taking that look at Mr. Miyagi, and that's basically what the second one is. The second one is Mr. Miyagi's story. The first one was Daniel's story, and I like that. Wasn't a real big fan of the third one, but it might have been because I really, really enjoyed the second one a lot, and the first one, they're both really good. So I agree with that. That is absolutely right. So you're number 8.
My number 8 stars a young Drew Barrymore, and that movie was Firestarter.
Ooh.
And also, her parents were played by Heather Locklear and David Keith. And I mean, the cast was incredible. Martin Sheen, George C. Scott, Art Carney, who played Norton on The Honeymooners, which we love, and Louise Fletcher, who was Nurse Ratched. So the premise is Andy and Vicky McGee. They meet when they're in college. They meet at one of those, where you can do those experiments to get money through the government, and they're both injected with a dose of this drug called Lot 6. They end up falling in love. They get married. Cut to 9 years later, they end up getting married and having a daughter, who her name was Charlie. Well, Charlie is able to start fires just by staring at someone or something and like burst them into flames. And they realized it was because of this drug. It also turned out that the dad got this ability where he can convince anyone to do anything that he pleased. So you cut to the secret government department known as the Shop, and they want to get rid of them. So they end up killing the mom and then going after the father and the daughter. And it's amazing because George C. Scott plays the sniper, which, I mean, my God, that's so cool. And he has to dispose of them. So it's like, can they, with their powers and their bond as father and daughter, stop this evil organization?
Firestarter.
Oh, sorry, I was just saying, I so wanted to be able to be a fire starter. When I watched that movie, I'm like, that would be so awesome, just to be able to look at something and start fire, because I love fire. I'm a Leo, so I guess I don't know. I just love fire.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. It never happened, though.
I like Firestarter. It's based on a Stephen King book, and Drew Barrymore is adorable, as she always is. And that cast is just an amazing cast. Good film, but I guess it's not really horror. It's more of a thriller, instead of horror. Supernatural thriller aspect to it.
Can't really start fire like that.
Yeah, and maybe it's one of those things also where it's one of those that I've only seen maybe a couple times, and it just maybe I wasn't fully invested in it. Maybe I wasn't old enough to whatever. Maybe it's one of those I need to rewatch again, just to get back and say, this I remember how good this used to be, and stuff like that. So Firestarter's good. You're going to be talking again, Jared, because my number 8 we already talked about, Splash. So your number 7.
Okay, my number 7 had an actress who ended up being in so many great movies in the 80s. Her name is Molly Ringwald, and the movie is 16 Candles. I just thought she was so awesome. I looked up to her. She was probably like in her 20s, and I was like, wow, what a cool teenager, because they used to have like 20, almost 30-year-olds playing teenagers. But I didn't know that as a kid. Anthony Michael Hall, John Cusack, so many great performers in that. So she plays Samantha. Samantha's 15. And the movie takes place on the day of her 16th birthday, and everybody has forgotten that it's her birthday. Her sister's getting married. She's got the crush on the most popular boy in school. He doesn't even notice her yet. The geekiest boy in school is in love with her. It's one of those movies, of course, typical 80s, where everything works out at the end and it's like neat and clean. But some of the moments that stood out for me was when the geek charged $1 to go into the bathroom, and then he presents her underwear to everybody. When he gets the photo of himself and the drunk prom queen, it's Carolyn. I think the guy's name is Jake, so Carolyn's girlfriend. And then just Ginny at her wedding, where she's like, she took too much tranquilizer, and she's just like all over the place at her wedding. Those were just some standout scenes. I mean, there's so many in that movie, but those are the ones that like came up, on the top of my head, came to mind.
I love this movie. I love it. I love it so much. It's my number 2.
Oh, okay.
I love this movie. I adore this movie. It is one of my favorite movies of all time, just because of it's in this almost like a fairy tale world where everything does work out. And that's the success that John Hughes is. He does, he writes these books, he writes these stories, these movies that, for someone who I guess he was in his 30s or maybe he's in his 40s maybe when he wrote that, had his mind perfectly in tune with what was going on with teenagers at that time. I mean, you could look at and also it's almost like a timeless film. I mean, there's some computer stuff, some computer talk, floppy disks and stuff like that. But if you get past some of the superficial stuff, it's a timeless movie for the most part. It's the basic premise is you're the I guess technically she's the middle child because you've got Carolyn, not Carolyn, Ginny, who's the oldest. Then you got Sam. No, she's four. There's four kids. Then you've got the bratty brother, and then the younger daughter. But still, technically, Sam is sort of that middle child, kind of. I mean, I know there's four kids, but she's sort of in the middle because you've got Ginny, who is everybody adores her, and then you've got her brother, who is the biggest jerk you've ever seen, and actually has one of my favorite lines that I always use all the time when his mother says, don't be a smartass, and he retorts back, okay, then I'll be a dumbass. And I use that all the time. I think that's great. Long Duck Dong, another fantastic character. Getty Watatambe came in and did that fantastic character. Comes in, it's totally. Is the total, when you first see him, is the cliched Asian character.
Right.
And then gradually, as he goes out and parties, he meets a girl, and he starts getting drunk. He starts going way out of crazy, out of his mind. It is great. Samantha, yes, she's doing puppy dives at Jake Ryan. Jake Ryan is the most attractive guy in line. He's a handsome man. He's a very handsome man. And he's dating Carolyn, who's the most popular girl, in school, big party or stuff like that. But he's getting bored with the parties. He's the handsome guy, but he's got that little soul in him that he knows that he wants something more than a party and stuff like that. And and then Paul Dooley as the father. Is if you're a new father, Paul Dooley's role as the father is one you're going to want to take a look at, especially how he interacts with his family, especially with his interaction with his daughter. One of my favorite scenes is when they remember that it was her birthday. They forgot her birthday, and she's sleeping on the sofa because all her grandparents are in for the wedding, and she's been kicked out of her room, and she has to sleep in the sofa. And Paul Dooley comes down. It's like probably 2 in the morning or something like that. Sam's trying to sleep, and Paul Dooley says, I couldn't sleep because we forgot your birthday. And they have one of those father-daughter moments that is kind of awkward because he thinks she's talking about something else. But then when it gets all cleared up, it's just, he's the dad you want to strive to be, the one that always has the good advice for you, the one that, he makes mistakes, but at the same time he wants you, to come to him and wants you to wants you to know that, despite the craziness, I am there for you. I love you. You're my daughter. You can tell me anything. And it's a wonderful Paul Dooley scene. And then Anthony Michael Hall just goes beyond, makes this geeky character who could totally be one of the most annoying characters ever, and makes him into a very lovable, likable character. I love his character as well. I love this movie to death. I watch it as many times as I can, and it's just an amazing movie. And then the ending, the Thompson Twins song, where everything works out perfectly. If You Leave is one of my favorite. Not If You Leave. I forget the name of the song, but it's I loved it so much. I found it on a CD and I play it all the time, and it's just such a great ending song for one of these 80s songs. 16 Candles, one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, is my number 2.
Okay.
So we've actually both done our number 2s, so that's kind of interesting. My number 7 is from the creators of Airplane. And was not as successful as Airplane, but is just as funny as Airplane. It's Top Secret. Top Secret is continues the Airplane sort of parodying of movies. Airplane was a parody of the airplane disaster films from the 70s. Top Secret is a parody film of Elvis movies, World War II movies. Spy films, stuff like that. And it's got a young, vibrant Val Kilmer before it seems like the world came down and he became this serious, I'm this big serious actor. When he, with a double shot of Top Secret this year in '84 and then Real Genius in '85, which he brings out just this bubbly, fun, comedic type of role. It's like the type of guy you want to hang out with because he's so fun, he's so cool. He plays a singer who's one of the more popular singers in America right now. And believe me, I wish I remember what his name was, but I can't remember what his name is. But his big hit is a parody of a Beach Boys song. It's called Skeet Shootin'. and Nick Rivers, that's what it is. His character's Nick Rivers, and he's got the good thing is that Val Kilmer does all the singing in this. There's actually like 4 or 5 songs that are actually performed in this film, and Val Kilmer actually does the singing. He's a singer because he also, back in the 90s, he sang the Doors music for the Doors movie where he played Jim Morrison. He actually sang that. So he is a singer, so he actually sang it, and he's got that Beach Boy peppy poppy type of sound, and there's a couple of Elvis songs in there as well where he's got the Elvis drawl type of thing going down also. He sings a verse of Are You Lonesome Tonight, which is hilarious with the words changed. It's freaking hilarious. But so he's being invited to go to a peace conference, peace concert, back when Germany is still divided in East Germany and West Germany, and before the Berlin Wall came down, and I think it's was East Germany was the one that was under the communist control. Yeah. So basically, what they did instead of it being under communist control, they made it be like they're Nazis still. So it's like, so the East German people are like Nazis, and then the West Germans are like, you know, the way Germany was in '84. West Germany was in '84, the freedom-loving type of thing. So he goes into East Germany for this peace conference and ends up getting involved in a assassination attempt when this girl that he's trying to hit on is involved in trying to stop the bad guys, the Nazis, from pulling off they're going to be, while the whole world is watching this peace concert, they're going to be launching these mines that are magnetic mines where the NATO submarine fleet will come drag to these mines and blow up so that the NATO submarine fleet will be totally destroyed, and then East Germany can go in and conquer the United States. So that's the basic premise. So he gets embroiled in that, but it's just, it sounds like it's deep, and it really isn't. It is one of the funniest films you're ever going to see. It does a straight-on parody of just everything you can imagine. The Elvis, some of the highlights of it. There are 2 that are very distinct. One is the backwards talking Dutch bookshop, where they're going to meet one of their contacts. And so it's a Dutch bookshop, so the guy who runs it is supposedly Dutch, but because no one really knows, or they're making fun of the Dutch language, basically what they're doing is the way that the Zuckers and Abrams did, the directors of the film, the way they did it was they had the actors read their lines normally, and then during editing they would bring it backwards and forwards and just, twisting their so like, so you can tell that they're saying something, but it's going backwards and forwards at the same time. And then they have the subtitles at the bottom, so you know what they're saying, so you're not missing the story. But that's exactly what it is. And then they decide, since we're doing the backwards and forwards bit with the voices, let's do the backwards and forwards with the film as well. So there's scenes of like, they're walking past all these books, and Peter Cushing, who is a famous horror actor, is the guy who runs the bookshop. He grabs this one book, and he goes, instead of blowing the dust off it, he inhales it. So he's like,
oh my God.
And then it comes flying out of his hand, and then like shoots up to the upper deck of the thing, and then it comes back down again into like Val Kilmer's hand, and then they walk backwards, and then they walk forwards, and there's a dog in it that walks backwards. They're making fun of how they edited and made the sound, and it was fantastic. That's a good scene. And the other really good scene is the and I still, for the life of me, I do not know how they did this, and whenever I watch it, I always try to figure out the secrets of how he did it. The underwater bar fight.
Oh.
It's making fun of the old westerns, where there's always seems to be like a bar fight, in a bar and stuff like that. People playing cards, stuff like that. Well, it's the final battle between the main bad guy and Val Kilmer, and they jump into the water, and so you go down to the bottom, and they enter a bar that's underwater. So you have all the tables are underwater. There's a bar underwater, and it's all underwater. No, and they don't have goggles. They don't have anything. They don't have any maps, but it's underwater. It's not CGI because they couldn't do it. Like, they actually filmed it underwater, and they have them fighting, and you see the bubbles all around them, and they go flying, slow motion, like they're being pushed out the
They're
door.
like floating away, yeah.
Exactly, and their hair's getting all messed up, and it is one of the funniest scenes, and you're like, how the hell did they film that?
Yeah.
It is an
Then like
bar fight, yeah.
20 seconds at a time, or
it must have been, because they're also talking. They're also talking during it also. I mean, you see, take it out. The bartender's like, take it outside. You see all these bubbles come up. And so I have no idea.
Wow, cool.
It is really, but I mean, it is, Airplane is still one of the funniest movies of all time. Top Secret is not as funny as Airplane, but it has its moments. So that's my number 7.
Cool. I've never seen that one. I'm going to have to check it out. Yeah.
I think you'll love it. The songs are great. Val Kilmer is fantastic in the role of Nick Rivers, and is just and then, as I said, the underwater bar fight and the backwards talking bookshop is just and then the other thing is the ballet, where the guys who are helping the ballet dancers, they've got big packages. You know what I'm saying? And the ballet ladies are using them to step like they're walking in the air, so they're stepping on their packages. So
got it.
Without resorting to gross.
Got it.
All right. What's your number 6, Jerry?
My number 6 is funny. I love this movie, and I probably didn't see this in a theater. We must have rented it. And I was just trying to think back. You know how like now X amount of time goes by before movies are available for rental? It must have been like a shorter amount of time, because I think I saw this in '84. Anyway, it's Beverly Hills Cop. Love, love, love Beverly Hills Cop. Eddie Murphy, Judge Reinhold, Axel Foley. His best friend gets killed, so he goes to California to follow the guy Zach who killed him, and uncovers this whole drug pin storyline. But what I love about it is, first of all, Eddie Murphy was so great and so hot at the time. I guess he was coming off of SNL and starting to do these major films, and the fact that it was just like an old-fashioned cop story. There were no cell phones, no computer tricks or hacks or this, that. Just a nice, straight story of like a cop and some other cops helping him, the California cops, solving a crime. And it was just so good, so clever. Had its funny moments, had its dramatic moments. It was such a big, big hit, and I really, really love that movie. And to this day, I still enjoy watching it.
It's my number 3.
Okay.
Beverly Hills Cop number 3, and the main reason why it's so high up on my list, besides all the stuff that you talked about, it's also the first R-rated movie I ever saw.
Okay.
And I sort of I kind of snuck it. Which is great because you're talking about the videos. Yeah, it took a long time for the videos to come out, and right around that time, I guess it was maybe more like '85 where we got our first VCR. Because they were expensive at the time, they were kind of expensive. We got our first VCR, and one of the first movies that we got was Beverly Hills Cop. But because my dad liked it. My dad, I think he might have seen the movie theaters, or he saw it on cable or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but he liked it a lot, and so we had a copy of that. And so one day I was sick home from school. And at that time, I was old enough that I was 11 or 12. It could have been even in '85.
Right.
I was old enough that my mom and dad could leave me at home and by myself, and I'd be okay. So I was sick, and I was on the couch just watching TV. I was like, let's see. I know where the video is. It's rated R. My parents aren't going to be home for a while. Let me check it out. So I snuck in. I found it. My dad had it in his room somewhere because he had his own little tape at the room hidden. I grabbed it, placed it in, and I watched it, and I absolutely loved it. It is Eddie Murphy was coming off of Trading Places, which made him the big name, and yeah, I love that one too. And then this one, as you said, you pretty much explained exactly why I love it. It was an old-fashioned police film. As you said, they didn't use computer hacking, cell phones, stuff like that. It was good old-fashioned police investigation. Eddie Murphy's character, Axel Foley, went and he did research. He interviewed people. He might have tweaked the truth a little bit, pretending to be certain people, but he was following clues and doing what he could, and then eventually getting John Ashton and Judge Reinhold to help him out, unwillingly usually, but eventually Judge Reinhold became, and just the storyline. I mean, it's a simple storyline. It's his buddy steals money from the wrong person. The wrong person goes to Detroit to get revenge on him. kills him, just knocks out Axel. So why should I kill this guy? He has nothing to do with it. I killed the guy I wanted to. I left. Axel's pissed off, rightfully so. He takes leave after he botched a big thing in Detroit, because he is a police officer in Detroit.
Right.
And he just botched a big case that he'd been working undercover on for years. That got botched up. So he loses his friend, he botches up something, and ends up going to California, not only to get revenge for his friend, to find out what happened, but also to maybe make him feel that he's not a screw-up anymore. And Eddie Murphy, I mean, he was hilarious in it, but he also showed some real depth in some of his acting. And it is an action comedy. The comedy is there, but the action is a big part of it also, and it showed that Eddie Murphy could do action films, and that a whole new world opened for him up then. And it was the biggest. I think it was the biggest. No, actually it wasn't. It was the second biggest hit of '84. At the time was the highest grossing R-rated film of all time, till The Hangover beat that just recently, actually.
Oh, wow.
And but it was, so it was the highest rated R-rated film box office wise in a long time. And it's such a great, it's a kinetic direction by Martin Brest, who he made that film, and he made Midnight Run, which is another good one also.
Love that.
Yeah, that one's like '89, but those are like his two best films that he did. And you've got Harold Faltermeyer's score, which was that 80s Sonic-y type of, electronic piano type of thing, which was fantastic, great for the 80s. Great jokes, great story, a lot of good action in it. And then, of course, the guy who plays Surge, who ended up being on Perfect Strangers, Bronson Pinchot, in his small role, stole that scene as Surge. Would you like the lemon twist? It's just fantastic. So yeah, Beverly Hills Cop is my number 3. I absolutely love it. So that was your number 6, right?
Number 6, yeah.
My number 6. As you can see, I have a. I like the childish type of comedy. My number 6 is Revenge of the Nerds. Once again, I didn't see it in '84. Another R-rated film that I saw that later too. I saw it. I think in college I might have saw that. Maybe high school. I might have saw it in high school. But Revenge of the Nerds is another one in the line of us against them, but instead of us against the deans and stuff like that, it's the nerds against the jocks, which is an ongoing battle that usually happens a lot more often than you like. I mean, it's starting to get, from what I've seen, it's starting to get a little bit better now with the advent that the nerds and the geeks and stuff like that are getting a bit more power, as it were, in the hierarchy in high school and stuff like that, because of the technology and stuff like that. But back in the 80s, still, it was the jocks versus the nerds. And this is the quintessential battle between them. You've got the nerds, you've got Anthony Edwards, you've got Robert Carradine, you've got Timothy Busfield, you've got, let me see who else is one of the other famous actors who was in that. Brian Tochi was in that. And I can't think of some of the other ones, but just once again, just a group of characters, nerds coming together, being treated badly by the jocks, come together, try to get their own. Well, let's back up a little bit. So the jocks feel like that they own this campus. It's the fictional Adams College out in California, and the jocks rule the school, as it were. And Adams College is on the cusp of the computer technology out in California. So the nerds are flocking to Adams College because, computers. We love computers. We're learning all about computers. We love computers, and this is the only place you can actually start learning about. It's the best place for it. But the jocks are still in control. So all the freshmen move into their freshman dorm, and they live their lives. And the Robert Carradine and Anthony Edwards are yelled nerds, and they know it's pretty much going to be the same thing as high school, but they're just not going to let it. They're going to try to continue moving on with their college life. Then the jocks burn down their jock dorm during a drunken party, and they decide that we're going to, and then they go to their coach, played by Oily Goodness by John Goodman, who is such an asshole in this movie that it is so great. And I love John Goodman. I absolutely love him, and he is such a great bad guy in this film. He tells them, well, we got the freshmen over there, they have their own dorm. We're the gods here on campus. Why don't we just go over there and throw their butts out? And he's he goes through the dean and is able to say, well, you know what, we give a lot of money to the school because of the the people, the students who've left. I can't think of the alumni.
Yeah.
We get a lot of alumni dollars in here. We bring a lot of popularity to the school, so you're going to do what we tell you to do. So the jocks, and then they make up the story. Well, you know what? The jock dorm burned down because of faulty wiring. We all know that's not true. You see them burn down the house due to their drunken stuff. But in order to make it all legal, they say that there was a bad wiring, so the college is in trouble. So we have to get the jocks before the jocks' parents sue. So they kick all the freshmen out. And so they waive the rule where freshmen can no longer be in fraternities, so they are able to go to fraternities. So it leaves a group of people who don't have fraternities, which are the nerds. And so they decide, we're going to come together, we'll find our own place, we're going to make our own way, and we'll do it. They find a house off campus. Together they work really hard, they refurbish it, they make it into kind of like a dorm. There's like 10, 12, 14 people living there. And they turn it into a nice little, a nerd dorm, just the place where they can be themselves and have fun and stuff like that. And the jocks, they don't like this, so they keep treating them badly, and eventually cause them to say, we can't get justice done because the jocks start vandalizing the house, they start threatening them, they start doing stuff like that, and we can't have, so they have to go to the student council, who's run by the jocks. And so the only way that you can do something is if you become a fraternity. So they try to become a fraternity. So they go to Lambda Lambda Lambda, which is an all-black fraternity, to say it's the only one we can do that can let us in. So they're given a trial basis to be Lambdas, and they end up competing in the Greek Olympics, where the winner of the Greek Olympics takes over the student council, and that's what the nerds want to do. They want to take over the council so they can kick the jocks out and run it as it's supposed to, where everybody has a fair shake and not just the jocks. So that's what the movie basically is. So it leads to that point, and then you have there's like a bunch of competitions. There's the tricycle race when you're drunk, there's the burping contest, there's the tug of war, there's the arm wrestling, there's the talent contest, and all this stuff. And sure enough, it goes both ways. The nerds win some, the jocks win some, and it goes down to the final, the talent contest, and the nerds win that one fair and square, and so the jocks don't take to all that. Now, that's just I'm giving you the scope of it, but the term Revenge of the Nerds comes in because after they have the Lambdas over before they are given a temporary Lambda fraternity, they're trying to impress them, and the jocks ruin their party. So the nerds are like, you know what, we're not going to stand for this anymore. So they set out and do their revenge. First, they get revenge on the jocks' girlfriends in the sororities by going into their dorm and doing an old-fashioned panty raid. But while that's just a diversionary tactic, though, it's the panty raid, they don't know that there are a bunch of people who are also sticking cameras into the bedrooms and the bathrooms so they can spy on the naked bodies of the sorority chicks. And then they go to the jocks. The best way to hurt the jocks is, in the sports way. So what they do is they find liquid heat, which is a massaging oil that they put on the football players, and they put the icy hot type thing on their jocks without any water on it. So when they put their jocks on, which protects their, once again, there's that word package. It's going to burn. It's going to burn badly. And so they get their revenge, and then the whole thing leads to this competition. So it shows nerds in a good light, that nerds can stand up for yourselves against the jocks. You stand up against them, and maybe teach them a lesson as well about being better people and stuff like that. So that's the basic premise of Revenge of the Nerds. It's great. Some of the stuff that happens with the football coach and how he's able to manipulate the dean would not fly in today's NCAA, to be honest. I mean, he basically threatens to beat the crap out of the dean if he doesn't let anything happen. That would be right there, be grounds for kicking him off campus and getting him out of his job. So it's a fun movie. So that's Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, yeah, I like that movie.
What's your number 5?
Okay, my number 5, I can only tell you if you promise to abide by 3 rules. Number 1, you got to keep it away from the bright light. Number 2, you can't get any water on it. And number 3, you can't feed it after midnight. Do you know which movie I'm talking about? Gremlin.
I do because it's my number 5 also.
Oh, there you go. Awesome.
Yes,
So
it
we
is
got,
Gremlins, yes.
yes, great cast. Zach Gallagher, Phoebe Cates, who I thought was like so incredibly beautiful. She still is. Hoyt Axton and Corey Feldman, funny enough, is in this one. So Billy Peltzer is the main character's name, and he gets this mysterious gift from his dad. They're called Mogwai or Mogwai, and it's this cute little guy, and he calls him Gizmo. And Gizmo comes with these rules. So he's pretty good about it till one day he has some friends over, and accidentally Gizmo gets wet. And when he gets wet, he starts to multiply into more little gizmos and cutie pie little guys, and except for the one who's a little bit nasty, and they call him Spike because he's a little bit mean. Well, Spike figures out a way to get food or access to food after midnight, eats it, and what happens is they turn into these nasty, icky gremlins. The gremlins wreak havoc all over the town. And Billy and his friends or his group of people, I forget who helped him out back then, they have to go back and get rid of these guys and help. That's all I'm going to say. It's Gremlins. Everybody's seen Gremlins.
You have to see it at Christmas time because it takes place on Christmas Eve, and it's one of the more interesting Christmas movies. It's not your typical Christmas movie.
Right.
It is a Christmas movie, though, because it takes place on Christmas Eve. As I said, it is my number 5. You forgot Judge Reinhold, who we mentioned already.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop. He plays the jerky bank assistant bank president, whatever, who also likes Phoebe Cates' character, and he's a jerk to Zach Galligan. And yeah, it's such a great film. It is. It's Joe Dante, who I absolutely love, directed it. Christopher Columbus. Chris Columbus actually wrote it. He's the guy who did the first 2 Harry Potter movies, and he wrote. I think he wrote Goonies also. To be honest, I think Chris Columbus also wrote Goonies as well. So it's such a great film, and and actually it makes a good point. We talked about this before the show. As you can see on my tag, it says Dylan Knows is PG-13. 1984 was the first year that PG-13 came out as a rating due to the fact of Gremlins and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, due to the fact that the stuff that happens in those movies is a little bit more extreme than a PG film, but not as bad as an R-rated film. So they had to go into that middle ground, so they created this PG-13 for Gremlins and Indiana Jones. Mainly due to the fact because the gremlin-y creatures, the monster-y, the ones that mutate, are horrible. They are vicious, evil characters who just don't care about things. They just care about eating and drinking and getting wet again and then multiplying again. So basically, they're the bad boys. The bad boys. All they care about is multiplying and eating and drinking and partying and stuff like that. It's such a great premise, and the fact that you have it take place on Christmas is great too. You've got a character who is like the Wicked Witch of the West in Wizard of Oz. You got one of those characters as well, and it's just great. And Phoebe Cates is adorable in the film as well, and it still has one of my favorite lines of all time, which is they've hid out for a while, and then it's all quiet after the Gremlins have run ramshot over the town. They've destroyed buildings and caused all kinds of havoc. Zach Galligan, Phoebe Cates, and Gizmo go out, and it's quiet. It's too quiet. They don't know what's going on, so they're trying to figure out where did they all go, where it's dark. So they go, there's the movie theater.
Oh yeah.
And playing at the movie theater is Snow White. And they go in, and all the evil gremlins are in the movie theater watching the movie. And when it starts, they have that ooh, all the evil gremlins. And Phoebe Cates asks Zach Galligan, "What are they doing?" And Zach turns and says, "They're watching Snow White." And they love it. And it's just my favorite line because they start singing along with the songs, and it's just one of the cutest scenes because you've had these little creatures just torturing and destroying towns that go in and they start watching this Disney film, and they absolutely love it. They're singing along and dancing and eating popcorn and just hi-ho, hi. They're singing. It's so funny. It's such a great scene. That one's a scene, and then the bar scene where Phoebe Cates is working part-time at the bar, and they've overtaken the bar and all just the rambunctious that does, and Phoebe figures out one of their weaknesses that they don't like the bright light, so she's able to use a flash camera to get out of there. So yeah, great cast, great movie, It's my number 5 also, so that's fantastic that we're on the same page on that one. So, great film. And once again, watch it at Christmas. Trust me, watch it at Christmas.
It's funny because Phoebe Cates' character, remember how she hates Christmas? And it's because she tells the story of how her dad tried to go down the chimney and ended up, getting hurt and whatever. And getting killed. So it's funny they made that connection.
It's just such and then it's just such a great film. What's your number 4?
All right, now my number 4, sort of the same type of movie, like an Airplane type or like your Top Secret. And I'm only going to tell you this once. And my number 4 is Johnny Dangerously.
Yep. Love it.
With Michael Keaton, Mary Lou Henner, Joe Piscopo. Maureen Stapleton plays the mom. She does awesome. Danny DeVito, Peter Boyle, who gives him the name Johnny Dangerously. So it takes place in the 30s, and Johnny Kelly tries really hard to be like the good, devoted son. But his mom is just always sick. There's always something wrong, and all the medicine she needs always costs tons of money. And he can't, figure out how to make the ends meet. So he ends up befriending Peter Boyle's character, or helps him out in one way, and sort of, ends up falling into this life of crime. And so Peter Boyle ends up calling him Johnny Dangerously, so that nobody will know that it's this good boy Johnny Kelly from the neighborhood. He falls in love with this singer. He makes his way up through the Dundee gang to be the head, and wages a war against one of my favorite characters, the immigrant mobster, Roman Mahoney. You farging bastages. That guy was awesome. He totally stole all the scenes that he was in. It's funny, tons of one-liners and gags. Again, the spirit of Airplane, Naked Gun, and just laughing so hard when we watched it as kids. And my dad probably brought that home as a rental back then. But love Johnny Dangerously even to this day.
I do too, and for some reason I don't know why I didn't put it in my honorable mentions, because I did love Johnny Dangerously, and I loved Piscopo's character, and I loved Dan DeVito's gay politician character, and the fact also is Johnny Kelly's brother becomes
Tom.
He becomes the district attorney or something like that, and the gang. Oh no, Joe Piscopo wants to split off because he doesn't like what Michael Keaton's doing with the gang. So he says the best way to do that is to go after his brother, who's trying to shut us down.
Right,
so
and then he figures out that they're brothers.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a great tongue-in-cheek 30s wacky romance action-y type of gangster film. It is great. Michael Keaton just is phenomenal in it. He is just amazing in it, and I love the framing device of him working in the pet store. Telling the story, and I just think it's just great. He's telling the story to the kid, and he's got the accent, he's got the old gangster style accent. He's doing the accent, the 1930s, you have to do this in the story. It's just so fantastic. So,
and I love the movie that he shows his brother, because his brother's so desperate to get laid. Do you remember the movie?
Oh, I can't remember, but I do remember it was
something. It's an all black and white, educational film.
That's right. That's what it is.
What'll happen if you're too eager? And that's so funny.
That's right. Yes, that's right.
It's about what will happen to your package.
Brought to you by the word package today.
That's right. Apparently.
I saw that. It was interesting. My dad divorced my mom and got remarried. And one night I was spending the night at their house, and they said I could watch any movie I wanted to, so I got Johnny Dangerously out and we watched it at their house. So that's my main remembrance of that. Johnny Dangerously. Oh man, I don't know why I didn't put that in my album. I do. I really like that movie, and I need to get on DVD. I don't think I have it on DVD. I have it on video, but I don't think I have it on DVD. So I need to find that again, because it is such a great movie, and it is such a wonderful film. My number 4 is pretty interesting, because it stars someone who talks like this. I'll be back. He's the Terminator. I will terminate you. If you do not like this movie, I will terminate you. Terminate you till you die. Terminator came out in 1984, so it is now 30 years old. For those who don't know what the Terminator is, once again, you got to roll your eyes, because probably everybody has seen most of these movies on our list. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Terminator is probably one of those ones that everybody's seen. James Cameron, one of his first films he ever did. It's a story, story that's as old as time. There's a post-apocalyptic future run by robots who are trying to destroy the human race. There are rebels who are trying to fight the robots, but the robots are too strong and too massive an army. So they decide, you know what, we can send time travelers back in time. Let's send them back in time so we do not create Skynet, which is the one that the humans created Skynet as a all-thinking computer and made it protect the United States and gave it all the codes to the nuclear missiles when it came online in 1999 or 97 or something like that. And the future at the time, yes, the future. And when it becomes self-aware, it says, I don't want to take orders from the humans, so he launches all the nuclear arsenal and destroys the Earth, and that's how the apocalypse happens. And then it builds the robots, and they go and they try to stop the humans who are rebelling against them. So they send a soldier by the name of Reese back in time to help save Sarah Connor because the Terminators, the robots called the Terminators, they've sent somebody back in time to kill Sarah Connor because John Connor, her son, is the leader of the rebellion, and he's starting to turn the tide of the war for the humans. He has a very good mind. He's able to figure out weaknesses, and he's very charismatic, and he's able to draw the army, and they're starting to get stronger, and they're starting to defeat the robots, the Terminators, even more and more. So the Terminators say, you know what, we can't take this anymore. Let's go back in time and let's kill them. So they hear about this. They send a rebel soldier back in time by the name of Reese, who goes back to save Sarah Connor, who back in '84 doesn't know that she's going to give birth to the savior of the human race. At the time, she's just hanging out in her flat with her roommate. She works at a bar, and doesn't really do anything. She's 20-something. Just got out of college, doesn't know what she's going on. Played by Linda Hamilton. Mm-hmm. And the Terminator sent back in time is played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in one of his first roles also. Conan and all that were before this, but this was one where I think his character says a total of maybe 10 lines the whole movie, but his bulk is just so imposing, and he makes a good killer robot. And so it's a simple thing where the Terminator goes back in time. He knows the location of where the Sarah Connor is, and he goes, checks the phone book. There's like 6 Sarah Connors, so what's he do logically? Let's start with the first one. Let's kill the first one till we kill all the Sarah Connors, and in some way we'll find the right one. We don't know who is the right one, but there's 6 of them. We'll just start killing them all. So the Terminator goes the first one on the list, kills her, goes the next one, kills her. So the news obviously gleans onto this, and they do say, if your name is Sarah Connor, please report to the police department. There's somebody out there who's periodically killing people in the order of the phone book. So of course Linda Hamilton hears this, she's freaking out, so she goes to the police, and then she runs into a strange guy who happens to be Reese, who is protecting her because the Terminator has found her. So Reese has found her also. So now Reese, the soldier from the future, grabs her, and they take off with the Terminator after them. And at the time, she doesn't know if this is the guy that's been killing everybody or if it's someone else. But then they notice that it is this big hulking guy as the bad guy. And so they're on the run, and they're trying to stop him. And so we start to learn more and more about the characters. And, Linda Hamilton learns about Reese's past. And, since everybody has seen the film, I'm going to ruin it for everybody. So, spoiler warning, if you haven't seen The Terminator, what's wrong with you? But but I'm gonna put the spoiler out now. So it turns out that during this time, Reese falls in love with Sarah Connor, and the two of them fall in love with each other. They end up spending the night together, and she gets pregnant with John Connor, who is the savior of the... So the guy from the future who comes back in time to save her is the father of the savior of the human race, who is his commanding officer. Wrap that around your head a little bit, because
but what did he have known that was his son?
Because I don't know if she. I don't know. Reese. No, John Connor did. That's why John Connor sent Reese, because he knew that his dad was Reese. Okay. He knew that of anybody else.
It was like, you got to save her, and then you got to sleep with her.
Well, I didn't say that. He had heard the story. He had heard the story from his mom. But that was funny. He's like, be sure you screw my mother.
That's right. Exactly.
but the thing is, I mean, there's a lot of people, and that's the basic premise of it. So and then we find out that under Arnold's skin, he's actually a robot, and so you've got some of the CGI that James Cameron's known for, and you've got the robotic stuff. Stan Winston does some of the special effects where they actually use he actually created like a robot that moves and stuff like that. So it's visually it's pretty stunning. The story is interesting, but everybody looks at it and there's all kinds of time paradoxes and stuff like that. It's like, come on, it's just a movie. I know, yes, time travel films are not easy to do, but
grab your popcorn and just enjoy.
Exactly. And then that begot Terminator 2 in '91, which was a huge hit and was a fantastic movie. So my number 4 is the Terminator.
Cool.
Did we do your number? We did your number 4.
My number 3. Yeah, my number 4 was Johnny Dangerous.
Right.
My number 3 was Karate Kid, which we already talked about. My number. Did we do your number 3?
Yeah, it was Beverly Hills Cop was my number 3.
Oh, okay, and my number 2 was Police Academy, which we already talked about.
And my number 2 was 16 Candles. So I guess that leaves us number 1 now.
Oh, number 1. And what's funny is you haven't asked the question. I haven't asked the question, but the best person that asked the question was Ray Parker Jr. way back when. And that question is, who are you going to call? My number 1 is Ghostbusters.
My number 1 is Ghostbusters.
We had a lot to say this time. Awesome.
High five, fist bump, fist bump.
Yep, there we go. To the camera. Awesome. So, I mean, again, one of those movies, Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis, Sigourney Weaver, Ernie Hudson, on and on and on and on and on. Written by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, paranormal investigators. When their grant runs out, they form their group together. They add Ernie Hudson's character to make their fourth guy. Everyone's making fun of them, like, yeah, you're going to hunt ghosts, until the demon comes and channels himself through Sigourney Weaver and Rick Moranis, which is hilarious because she's like the beautiful cellist and he's the nerdiest nerd of all time. And then they pair together, and their scenes together are actually so funny and so hilarious. Then you've got all the one-liners that Bill Murray, we came, we saw, we kicked ass. And then at the end, probably the craziest Godzilla-like character ever to attack and destroy New York City, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. And can the Ghostbusters save the city?
Oh my God!
I don't know what more to say about it because it's Ghostbusters. I mean, it became a cartoon and characters and this and that, and then they've been going back and forth with whether they're going to create another one, and
And then Harold Ramis passed away, unfortunately.
Yeah, yes, R.I.P.
And then Bill Murray's like, I don't want to do another one. Maybe I'll pop up as a ghost, and we'll pass the torch on to someone else. What's interesting is that I don't know if you could do Ghostbusters now because of the dearth of actual paranormal, like the Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, which I talk about on my paranormal show, which will be on next week. But it's nowadays it's not unusual to have paranormal groups looking for ghosts. Back in '84, though, it was, and in the film, it's a lot different than what you see in reality now. In the reality shows, you don't really see the physical manifestations of the ghost. You hear noises, you hear voices and stuff like that, and they make a big deal about it. Doors close on their own, stuff like that. In this film, you actually see the spirits. You've got Slimer, the big green.
Slimer's awesome.
That became one of the characters in the cartoon series, became more popular. You've got the librarian ghost, which is the first one that we see, and then the taxi cab zombie, and just all the different myriad of ghosts out there that they go and try to save the day. But yeah, it's Ghostbusters. You're absolutely right. Everybody has probably seen Ghostbusters. If you haven't seen Ghostbusters, there's something seriously wrong with you. And if you don't like Ghostbusters, there's also seriously something wrong with you. All right, to be fair, it might not be everybody's cup of tea, but look, yeah, it's the one-liners. And that's the good thing is that every one of the characters is given at least one good line. Yes, Bill Murray gets the majority of them.
Yeah, the one big one, yeah.
But everybody gets at least one good quote, one good joke, one good phrase. Like Egon says, I collect spores, molds, and fungus. That's, very dry, very dry like that. Dan Aykroyd, I thought of the most harmless thing I could. we used to roast him on at the camp at Camp Wakanda. You know, it's the staple Marshmallow Man. You know.
Yeah. And the secretary, I blank out on. She was really good too.
Yeah.
I forgot about her. I didn't even look her up or write her down.
Yeah, she was in Designing Women. Annie Potts. Annie Potts.
Right.
That's who it was. Annie Potts. She was great in that as well. And then my favorite line, still one of my absolute favorite lines, is done by Winston, played by Ernie Hudson, which is Ray. The next time someone asks if you are God, you say yes. And that's one of the best lines out there, you know. But Bill Murray, absolutely, he makes that film. He's the one who gets all the good lines, but he's got that. You have to have that character. He's got the suave. He's got the snarky attitude, and you got to have that guy in there as well. Dan Aykroyd is the true believer, the guy the straight guy. Egon is the one who's a scientist. He's the guy who wants to do scientific studies and creates the devices and stuff like that. And then you've got Ernie Hudson, who's the working guy who just wants to make a paycheck, but at the same time he's learning more about the world than he ever expected to. Mm-hmm. And then you've got one of the best bad guys in Peck, played by William Atherton, who made a career playing dicks. He played a dick in he plays a dick in Real Genius also. But he's fantastic as the health inspector guy who wants to shut down the Ghostbusters because he does not believe in ghosts, and he believes that they are housing stuff that could be bad for the environment and stuff like that. So he's technically on the side of good, trying to figure out the environment, but he's such an asshole that you can't trust him. You can't believe that he wants to save the world because of that. So, I mean, yeah, it is absolutely Ghostbusters great. I mean, and it's such a great movie. It was the top grossing film in 1984.
Yes.
It's going to get re-released in movie theaters this year.
Oh, cool! How fun!
I think they've even expanded to IMAX. So I think they might even have an IMAX, which would be amazing to see the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in IMAX. Just to see that as well. And they're going to release the Blu-ray, the 30th anniversary edition of the Blu-ray this fall. So it's one of these things that, you know, Ghostbusters is still such a big deal, and it's such a big thing in the world of film right now that it is great, and it is one of those films that it'll make you smile every time. And we did our show a while back where those films that you could watch, you know, all the time, whatever. Ghostbusters is one of those that, you know what, I feel like watching a fun little movie. Let's plop in Ghostbusters. Let's play it. It is a great film. So great effects, great writing.
I read a fun fact online. I don't know if this is true or not, but originally when they wrote it, they had John Belushi in mind to play Bill Murray's character, and then he died, and then they had to go through a ton of rewrites just to get it right for, you know, Bill Murray's style and whatnot, which I thought was really interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah,
Dan Aykroyd had come up with the idea back in the 80s, back when he and Belushi did those movies together. They did Blues Brothers, they did Neighbors, they did a bunch of movies together, and they were buddies. So he wanted to write this movie for Belushi. So it would have I think it was just him and Belushi. I don't think Harold Ramis was even involved with it. He might have been a rewriter, or might have been tapped maybe direct maybe, but I don't think he was actually involved with it. And then Belushi passed away, and they had to rewrite it, and they brought in Bill, who came in and made the film it is. Now here's something else that you might not have known either. When they were originally coming up with the idea for the sequel, and this would have been absolutely brilliant. It would have come out sooner than the other sequel. I think the sequel came out like in 88, 89, something like that. It was a while before the sequel came out. But they're talking like in 85, 86, that they would have made a sequel then. They were going to get Eddie Murphy to play not one of the Ghostbusters, but be the one who is being haunted by the ghosts that the Ghostbusters are coming to stop. And he would come in and maybe become... I mean, he'd be Eddie Murphy, but I think what they were saying is they were tailoring the story to be like, he's the guy that's being affected by these ghosts, and so the Ghostbusters would come to try to save the day, but Eddie Murphy, being Eddie Murphy's his character, would try to help them stop the ghost and would end up making things worse, you know, that type of thing. So that was one of the ideas that was being kicked around also, and I think if they would have done that instead of the horrible sequel. Unfortunately, the sequel is pretty bad. It has some moments in it, but it's pretty bad. And I guess when you've got Ghostbusters, it's a high standard to try to reach. But just the fact that the bad guy wasn't that interesting, and the finale with them letting loose the Statue of Liberty on New York on New Year's Eve was just bad. But
a little hokey, yeah.
Yeah, it was hokey. But I will say this: I love Peter McNichol's character in that. I thought his character as the artist in that one was fantastic. So and it wasn't a great sequel. So you can bypass the sequel, check it out just to see what it is, but it's not great. It's not great. Yeah. It has moments, but the quintessential film, definitely see Ghostbusters. If you haven't seen it already, go, run, don't walk. And heck, if you have seen it, it's been a while since you've seen it, it's supposed to come out in movie theaters, I think, end of July or August, so it'll be out this summer for 30th anniversary. Go see the movie theater again. Why not?
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
It's been a while. So, we did it. We did it within our allotted time. Yay! That's because we had so much in common. That's why, because we had so many of the same ones that we were able to just skip over that stuff. So that was a lot of fun. So hopefully, maybe we said some films that you hadn't seen before or ones that you hadn't thought about. But yes, all those films came out in '84. They are all 30 years old, so hopefully you don't feel too old now. So on that note, we're going to move on. Dylan Knows will be back next Sunday for my paranormal show. I don't know who my guest host is because I think Daphne Du, my usual co-host, has taken the month off, so I gotta start working on finding a replacement for her for this month. Then the weekend after that is my Dylan Knows International. I've got Kelly Toole lined up as well as Tony Solo, trying to get Young Genes in as well, so we're going to have a pretty good show there. And my 5th Sunday show at the end of the month, the 29th, I haven't decided what the topic is going to be yet. I'm toying between the Stephen King, which we talked about a little bit today, or Doctor Who one. So just keep an eye on my Twitter. Snarkalic Radio, Thursday nights at 9 o'clock. Go ahead and watch that. If you're a fan of science fiction, Defiance is going to be coming back next Thursday on the 19th. So if you haven't seen Defiance on Sci-Fi, totally check it out. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else. Gigi and I will be back in July. We haven't decided yet on the topic yet, but we'll think about that, and we've got some time. We've got about a month to think about, so we'll come up with one, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So with that note, thanks, Gigi, for hanging out again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was fun.
And we're going to take off. So have a pleasant Sunday, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.